never imagined I'd wake up in my brother's body on the morning of what was supposed to be our last family Christmas. His Rolex heavy on my wrist like a noose. Staring at my own face, pale, betrayed, and screaming silently from the bathroom mirror. That split-second swap wasn't some holiday miracle, it was the culmination of years of his lies. The ones that stole my life, my identity, and pinned his sins on me like a scarlet letter sewn into my skin. And as I slipped into his designer loafers, feeling the power of his stolen empire under my feet, I knew this Christmas I'd unwrap the revenge he'd buried deeper than Grandma's secret recipe for fruitcake, starting with the truth that would shatter him before the clock struck midnight. The fluorescent hum of the hospital lights in that godforsaken ER waiting room in suburban Chicago was the last thing I remembered before everything flipped. It was December 23rd, 2 years ago, the air thick with the scent of pine from the half-assed Christmas tree in the corner, its branches drooping under tinsel that looked like it had been salvaged from a Black Friday clearance bin. I'd been rushing home from my dead-end job at the ad agency, pushing copy for luxury car dealerships that I'd never afford, when the text came in, Mom's fading fast.
Get here now. Ethan.
My brother. Always the golden child. The one who'd climbed the corporate ladder at Dad's old firm while I scraped by on ramen and regret. I slammed on the brakes too late. The semi-truck jackknifed on the icy interstate, and the world exploded in a symphony of shattering glass and screeching metal.
Pain.
Then nothing. Blackness that should have been the end. But when my eyes fluttered open, not in some sterile recovery room, but in the king-sized bed of Ethan's penthouse overlooking Lake Michigan, it wasn't my body that ached. It was his. Broad shoulders, manicured hands, the faint scent of his overpriced cologne clinging to the silk sheets. I bolted upright, heart pounding like a bass drum in a blues club on Rush Street, and stumbled to the ensuite bathroom. The mirror didn't lie. Staring back was Ethan, my Ethan, with his chiseled jaw and that perpetual smirk that said he owned the room before he even walked in. But the eyes? Those were mine.
Wild.
Hazel. Laced with the panic of a woman who'd just lost everything twice over. What the fuck? The voice that came out was his, deep, authoritative, the kind that closed million-dollar deals over steak at Gibson's. I touched my face, his face, and felt the rough stubble, the unfamiliar weight of it all. My hands, his hands, trembled as I yanked up the sleeve of his monogrammed pajamas. No scars from the childhood bike wreck that had left my real arm a roadmap of pink lines. No tattoo of the tiny star I'd gotten on a women college, drunk on cheap tequila in Wicker Park. Downstairs, the doorman buzzed up, his voice crackling through the intercom like static on an old radio. Mr. Hargrove, your sister's here.
Bella.
She looks off. My stomach dropped. If I was in Ethan's body, then where the hell was he? I threw on his cashmere robe, soft as sin against skin that wasn't mine, and hit the elevator button with more force than necessary. The descent felt eternal, the mirrored walls reflecting a stranger's confident stride that I forced myself to mimic. When the doors dinged open, there I was. Or rather, Bella Hargrove, 28 and frayed at the edges, standing in the marble lobby clutching a styrofoam cup of hospital coffee that had gone cold hours ago. But her eyes, my eyes, weren't frantic. They were cold, calculating. And when she opened her mouth, it was Ethan's polished baritone that slithered out. Took you long enough.
Bells.
Mom's stable for now, but we need to talk about the will. Dad's estate is a mess, and you're not getting a dime if you keep playing the victim card. I froze, the words hitting like a gut punch from a southpaw in a back alley fight. This wasn't some cosmic joke. This was possession.
Swap.
Whatever you call it when your own flesh and blood hijacks your soul like a virus in a mainframe. Ethan had always been the schemer. The one who'd borrow my ideas in high school debate club and pass them off as his to win state. But this was next-level betrayal, rooted in the secret he'd buried since we were kids. We grew up in that cookie-cutter McMansion in Naperville, the kind with a 3-car garage and HOAs that find you for letting your lawn grow an inch too long. Dad was the king of real estate development, turning cornfields into cul-de-sacs before the ink dried on the zoning permits. Mom baked apple pies that won blue ribbons at the DuPage County Fair and volunteered at the local food pantry. All smiles and Southern grace she'd brought from Atlanta when she married into our Windy City dynasty. Ethan and I were the heirs apparent, he the prince,
Me the spare.
But when Dad died in that accident on the job site, crushed under a beam that should have been secured, everything changed. Ethan was 22, fresh out of Northwestern with an MBA that Daddy's connections had greased. I was 19, still figuring out community college and waitressing at the corner diner to pay for it. The cops called it negligence, but the whispers in the family were darker: sabotage. Dad had been pushing back against a shady investor, some ghost LLC tied to City Hall cronies. Ethan stepped in, saved the company by selling off assets, cutting deals that lined his pockets while Mom drowned in grief. I took the fall for the smaller stuff, falsifying a permit here, overlooking an inspection there, because I was the good daughter, the one who'd do anything to keep the family afloat. A misdemeanor record that killed my shot at a real career, while Ethan climbed to CEO. That night in the lobby, as Bella sneered at me in my own body, I played along.
Yeah.
Well, maybe if you'd picked up the phone instead of schmoozing at that holiday gala, you'd know Mom's asking for me. My voice, his voice, cracked just enough to sell it. We rode up in silence, the elevator's hum underscoring the chasm between us. Inside his apartment, our prison now, I poured a scotch from his crystal decanter.
Neat.
Like he always drank it. To family, I toasted, watching him sip from my lips. My hands. He lounged on the leather sectional, legs spread like he owned the skyline view. Look, Bells. This inheritance fight? It's killing her. Just sign the papers tomorrow. Let me handle it. You get the house in Evanston. Plenty for your little life. His eyes, my eyes, flicked to the Rolex on his wrist. The one Dad left me in the will.
It was on his arm now.
Stolen. Just like everything else. I nodded, forcing a smile that didn't reach those stolen hazel eyes. Sure.
Ethan.
Whatever you say.
But inside,
rage simmered like the deep dish pizza we'd scarfed as kids at Lou Malnati's. That night, as he, in my body, collapsed into the guest room, exhausted from the crash, I rifled through his desk. Files on the company, encrypted drives, and buried deepest, a yellowed envelope from a private investigator. Dad's death wasn't an accident. Ethan had tipped off the rival developer, planted the doubt that led to the cut corners. And me, I'd signed the falsified docs under duress, thinking I was protecting him. My record was his shield, my life his smokescreen. The swap? It happened in that ER crash. Or so the fragmented memories suggested. A experimental neural stimulator Dad's firm had been testing, some black market tech for enhancing executive function that Ethan had rigged for himself. But the truck hit. Wires crossed in the chaos, and souls collided like faulty circuits. He woke up in me, free to play the victim and consolidate power. I woke up in him, armed with his empire, but chained to his sins. Christmas Eve dawned gray and unforgiving, snow blanketing the magnificent mile in a hush that mocked the chaos inside me. Mom was out of the hospital, frail in her hospice bed at the family estate in Oak Brook, surrounded by nurses who cooed over her like she was a prop in a Hallmark movie. Ethan, in my skin, drove us out there in his Tesla, humming Jingle Bells off-key while I gripped the wheel's ghost, plotting. "Mom's always favored you. You know," he said casually. "Eyes on the road. The baby girl. But this time, it's my turn. The company's mine by right." I bit back the truth that Mom had whispered to me weeks before the crash about changing the will. Not because she chose me, but because she'd uncovered Ethan's hand in Dad's death. A secret she'd buried to keep the family intact, forcing me to shoulder the blame for the cover-up. "Yeah," I muttered. "Your turn." The estate loomed like a ghost from a Norman Rockwell fever dream. White columns, wreaths on every door, a grand piano in the foyer strung with lights. Mom lay in the sunroom, for drip beeping softly, her once vibrant red hair now a silver halo against the pillows. "Bella," she rasped, reaching for me, him, with trembling hands. Ethan stepped forward in my body, all doe-eyed concern. "Hey,
Mom.
we're here." She frowned, those sharp blue eyes, Dad's eyes, searching my face. His face.
Ethan?
"You look different." A chill slithered down my spine. Did she sense it? The swap? Or was it the guilt etched into lines I hadn't earned? We sat through the obligatory carols, Ethan belting out Silent Night with my voice, off-pitch and earnest, while I, in his shell, stared at the fire, mind racing. Revenge wasn't a blaze, it was a slow burn. I'd start small, access his emails, leak the proof of his embezzlement to the board. But the real gut punch? Exposing how he'd framed me for Dad's murder cover-up, turning his golden boy image to ash. As night fell, guests trickled in, cousins from Milwaukee, aunts with fruitcake tins that clanged like warning bells. Ethan worked the room in my body, charming them with stories of my resilience post-crash, painting himself as the doting brother. I watched from the shadows, nursing spiked cider, feeling the weight of his Rolex like a ticking bomb. At midnight, mass via Zoom, because who has time for actual church in a pandemic hangover year? Mom pulled me aside. "Ethan." "Honey," she whispered, mistaking me for him. "The truth about your father. Bella knows. She carried it for you. Don't let it destroy her." Her words ignited the fuse. Carried it for him. The misdemeanor that derailed my life. The whispers that labeled me the black sheep. All so he could inherit clean. I nodded, throat tight. "I won't."
Mom.
"Promise." But promises are for suckers. By dawn Christmas Day, while he slept off the eggnog in my body, I was in his home office, VPN routed through a Cayman account, drafting the anonymous tip to the FBI. Dad's death. The fraud. The swap's tech origins. It all unraveled in pixels. Yet, as I hit send, a knock echoed. "Ethan?" My voice, his voice now, called from the hall.
No.
Ethan's voice from my body. He was awake. The knock turned into a pounding, like the bass from a South Side trap house bleeding through thin walls. I minimized the screen just in time, heart jackhammering against ribs that felt too broad, too foreign. "Coming," I called, Ethan's timbre smooth as bourbon, even as sweat beaded on his brow, my brow now. He burst in, My face twisted in that familiar scowl I used to wear when life kicked me in the teeth. Bags under the eyes. Hair tousled like it had seen a rough night, which it had. From his side of the swap. "What the hell are you doing in here?" Snooping. He crossed his arms over my chest. The sweater I'd picked out last Black Friday, hanging loose.
God.
I looked small in it. Vulnerable. Exactly how he'd always seen me. "Just checking emails," I lied, sliding into his executive chair like I owned it, which, technically, I did now. Boards breathing down my neck about the Q4 projections. "You wouldn't understand." The jab landed, my cheeks flushed. Ethan had always resented my coddled path, the one he'd paved with my sacrifices. He paced, boots scuffing the Persian rug Mom had shipped from some artisan in Savannah. "This swap bullshit ends today. Whatever freaky accident caused it, we fix it. Call that quack doctor from the firm, the one with the neural gizmo." Desperation cracked his voice. My voice, turning it high and whiny. It was almost comical, if it weren't for the knife edge of reality slicing through us both. I leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Fix it? Like you fixed Dad's accident? Or how you fixed me out of a career by slapping that plea deal on my record?" The words hung heavy, ornaments swaying from the invisible draft of truth. He stopped cold, eyes widening in my face. "What did you say?" "You heard me, brother dearest. I know everything. The PI's report, the payoffs to the inspector, the way you whispered in that developer's ear about Dad's weak spots. And me, the loyal little sister, forging the docs because you batted those lashes and said it was for family. Merry fucking Christmas." The room spun, or maybe that was the vertigo of occupying a body that didn't fit. Souls grinding like gears in a busted transmission. He lunged, grabbing my collar, his collar, with my hands, nails digging into cashmere. "You think you're so righteous, Bella? That fall was your fault. You were the one who signed off. Too busy chasing boys and dreams to read the fine print. I saved us, saved Mom, from bankruptcy. Dad was a dinosaur, clinging to ethics in a cutthroat game. I shoved him off, strength surging from muscles honed by his CrossFit obsession. Saved us? You buried us. Mom's dying because she can't stomach the lie anymore. She knows.
Ethan.
And so do I. Lies within lies. Mom suspected. But the full rot? That was my ace. Buried in the FBI tip I just fired off like a digital Molotov. He staggered back, collapsing into an armchair, my body curling small.
"Please.
We can undo this. Switch back. I'll give you half the company. The house. Whatever. Just don't." "Don't what?" "Expose you." I towered over him, a giant in stolen skin. Too late. The wheels are turning. By New Year's, you'll be in a cell, and I'll be me again. Or not.
Doesn't matter.
Justice tastes better than eggnog. But justice? It was a myth. As American as apple pie laced with arsenic. As we trudged downstairs for the family brunch, turkey leftovers and mimosas under the chandelier that Dad installed himself, the facade cracked wider. Cousins chattered about stock tips and fantasy football, oblivious to the body-snatched elephant in the room. Aunt Rita cornered me, by the buffet. "Ethan. Honey. You look peaked." That crash did a number on Bella. But she's tough. Always has been. Carrying the load since your daddy passed. Carrying the load. The phrase echoed like a bad country ballad on a jukebox in some dive off Route 66. I nodded, forcing Ethan's grin.
Yeah.
Aunt Rita. Bella's a fighter. Across the table, he shot daggers from my eyes, mimosa flute trembling in his grip. Mom shuffled in on the nurse's arm, wrapped in a shawl that smelled of lavender and regret. She beckoned us both to her side, the sunroom once more our confessional. Children, she murmured, voice a whisper over the crackle of the Yule log on the flat screen. This Christmas. It's our last. I need to make it right. Her gaze lingered on me, on Ethan's shell. Son.
The will.
I changed it last month. Bella gets the controlling shares. Not because I chose her over you. Because she earned it. She bore the scars of your mistakes. Ethan's face, my face, drained of color. Mom. That's not. Hush. She squeezed my hand, his hand, her grip frail but iron. I know about the swap.
Ethan.
The doctor called me from the ER, rambling about anomalies before he clammed up. Whatever devilry you toyed with, it backfired. And now, face it like a man. The revelation hit like a nor'easter off Lake Superior. She'd known, all this time, playing the frail widow while piecing together the puzzle. Ethan bolted, my body fleeing to the powder room, retching echoes down the hall. I stayed, holding her, tears, his tears hot on my cheeks. Why didn't you tell me? Because, baby girl, in his skin or not, you've always been the heart. He was the head, but rotten at the core. Her words were a balm and a blade, soothing the years of doubt while carving open the wound of our fractured bond. But revenge doesn't pause for heart-to-hearts. By afternoon, as we strung popcorn on the tree, a tradition Mom insisted on, her arthritic fingers trembling, I felt the first tremor. My phone, his phone, buzzed. FBI Agent Ramirez. Mr. Hargrove, we received your tip. Need to discuss irregularities in Hargrove Development's records. Discreet meet? I typed back, thumbs flying on keys that felt too thick. Tomorrow. Coffee at Intelligentsia. 10 a.m. Ethan, eavesdropping from the doorway in my body,
Paled.
You didn't. I did. The popcorn snapped under his fist. Controversial? Hell yes. Betraying blood for justice in a country that idolizes family feuds like their reality TV gold. But as the lights twinkled, casting crimson shadows on Mom's serene face, I wondered, was this salvation or just swapping one prison for another? Evening brought the Real storm. Ethan cornered me in the garage, snow boots crunching on the concrete floor slick with melt from the driveway. You're ruining everything. The company's my legacy, Dad's legacy. He swung wild, my fist connecting with his, my jaw. A dull thud that echoed off the Bentley. I tasted blood, his blood, on my lip. Legacy? You mean the empire built on Dad's grave? We grappled, bodies clashing in a grotesque mirror match. His power in my frame against my wiry desperation in his. I pinned him against the workbench, tools clattering like festive maracas.
Admit it.
You killed him. For the throne. He laughed, bitter and broken through split lips. Killed? I just accelerated. He was holding us back.
Bella.
Ethics don't pay for private jets or Swiss accounts. The confession spilled like cheap champagne, fizzy and foul. But in his eyes, my eyes, I saw the twist of the knife. Not just greed,
But envy.
of Dad's love for me. The artistic one. The one who'd sketched blueprints as a kid while Ethan crunched numbers. "You think Mom chose you," he spat. "She pitied you. The screw-up who took the fall so I could shine." The words stung deeper than the cold seeping through the garage door.
Pity?
All those late nights I'd spent consoling her, absorbing her grief like a sponge. And it was pity? I released him, staggering back, the swap's disorientation hitting like a hangover. "Get out. Before I finish what you started." He fled into the blizzard, my body vanishing into whiteout like a ghost from a Dickens tale gone wrong. I sank to the oil-stained floor, Ethan's overcoat pooling around me, and wept for the brother I thought I knew, for the life I'd lost twice, for the revenge that tasted like ashes on a gingerbread man. Mom found me there, an hour later, when the power flickered from the storm. "Come inside, child," she said, helping me up with strength born of dying grace. "It's Christmas. Forgive, if you can. Forgive? In America, land of the grudge and home of the feuds, forgiveness is just another transaction." But as we returned to the warmth, the tree aglow, I clung to her words. The FBI meet loomed, but so did the swap's reversal, maybe in confession. Souls could untangle. Yet deep down, in the marrow of this borrowed bone, I knew the real unraveling was just beginning. The blizzard howled through the night like a banshee at a frat party, burying the estate under a foot of Midwest misery that turned the cul-de-sac into a no-man's land. I barely slept in Ethan's bed, our bed now, tossing under Egyptian cotton sheets that whispered accusations. Dreams fragmented, Dad's beam crashing, my plea deals signing away dreams. Mom's will fluttering like a dove shot mid-flight. And always, that mirror, reflecting a stranger's triumph laced with my terror. Dawn broke brittle and blue, the kind of cold that cracks lips and tempers alike. Mom was gone by morning, slipped away in her sleep, peaceful as fresh powder. The nurse murmuring about natural causes over black coffee that tasted like regret. No fanfare, no last words, just a note on her pillow. "To my children, love isn't a choice. It's the burden we carry. Forgive each other." Ethan returned at sunrise, pounding snow from my boots at the door, face gaunt in my skin, eyes red-rimmed from whatever foxhole he'd hunkered in. "She's..." His voice, my voice, broke, the question hanging like icicles from the eaves. I nodded, handing him the note. We stood there, two halves of a shattered whole, the silence louder than the wind. "Funeral's in a week," I said finally, Ethan's authority masking the quiver. "But first,
we talk."
Really talk. He followed me to the study, Dad's old den, walls lined with ledgers and faded photos of us as kids, gap-toothed and inseparable at Navy Pier. I poured bourbon from the decanter that hadn't been touched since the reading of Dad's will, the amber liquid glinting like fool's gold. "To Mom," we toasted, glasses clinking like handcuffs. He sank into the leather wingback, my body swallowed by its bulk. I didn't mean for any of this.
Bells. The tech.
It was supposed to sharpen my edge, make me like Dad, unstoppable. The crash? Fate's cruel joke.
Lies.
Still, but softer now, laced with the grief that humanized him. Or was it just another performance? Rehearsed in boardrooms from Wall Street to Wacker Drive, I perched on the desk's edge, his legs dangling awkward. Fate? Or karma? You framed me.
Ethan.
Took my life, literally, and now you're squatting in it like a bad tenant. The confession from the garage echoed, He'd admitted accelerating Dad's death. But the full rot? The embezzled millions funneled to offshore havens. The bribes to city council for rezoning kickbacks. It was all in the files I'd emailed the feds last night. Time-stamped and ironclad. He drained his glass, slamming it down. Framed? You were complicit. Signing those permits. Covering the audits. You chose that. To protect me. Yeah. But also because you couldn't hack it alone. Mom's note? Bullshit. She chose you because you're weak.
Bells.
The one she could control. The barb, hooked deep, twisting in the scar tissue of our sibling rivalry.
Weak.
I'd clawed through community college night classes while he yachted in Door County. Dated baristas who ghosted while he bedded influencers at rooftop soirees. But weak?
No.
Forgiving? Maybe. And that was the controversial crux. In a nation that fetishizes vengeance, from The Godfather to John Wick, choosing mercy felt like treason. Control? I laughed. Hollow as a Christmas ornament dropped on hardwood. She loved us both. Flawed as fuck. But equal. You just couldn't see it past your ego. I pulled up the laptop. The FBI email chain glowing accusatory. But this ends now. Agent Ramirez is en route. No more hiding. Panic flashed in my eyes, his eyes. He lunged for the machine, but I yanked the cord. Screen dying like a snuffed candle.
No.
You can't. It'll destroy everything. He crumpled, sobbing in my body, shoulders shaking with the force of a man unmade. Please.
Bells.
Switch back first. Let me fix it as me. The plea hung, tempting as devil's food cake at a diet meeting. The swap's mechanics were murky, neural echoes from the stimulator. Perhaps reversible with the same jolt. But trust him? After the betrayal that buried Dad and branded me, it was the decision that would haunt op-eds and Reddit threads. Redeem the monster. Or burn the village to save it. Outside. Tires crunched on the drive. Ramirez. Early and efficient. Badge glinting under the porch light like a star on a crooked tree. Ethan froze. Then straightened. Wiping my tears with the back of my hand.
Fine.
But hear this first. The truth reversed. He leaned in. Voice a conspirator's hush. Dad's death. I didn't start it. He was dirty too, skimming from the union funds, owing debts to the mob. I covered for him, not the other way around. The beam? Payback from his enemies. You signed the docs because Mom begged you to whitewash his sins. She chose you to carry them, not mine. The world tilted, harder than the crash.
Dad.
The saint? Dirty? Flashes hit. Late-night calls he dismissed as clients. Mom's unexplained jewelry sales. And me? The fall guy again. Not for Ethan's greed, but for the family rot we'd all fertilized. Twist upon twist. Like a plot from a Gillian Flynn novel gone familial. Ramirez knocked. Authoritative rap. I stood. Ethan's frame filling the door. Agent?
Come in.
There's a story you need to hear. Ethan nodded. My face resolute beside me. We spilled it all, the swap. The fraud. The layers of lies peeling back to reveal not one villain, but a dynasty of them. Ramirez listened. Notepad filling. Eyes narrowing at the tech angle. This neural swap? If provable, it's attempted murder territory. But bodies. Souls? That's above my pay grade. As he left with the drive, evidence intact, the snow eased. Sun-piercing clouds like a hesitant forgiveness. Ethan and I faced the mirror in the hall. Two strangers in stolen skins. Mom's note clutched between us. Switch back, he asked, voice small. I hesitated. The controversial choice crystallizing. Keep his power. Expose the full truth. Let the courts sort the Hargrove wreckage? Or revert. Reclaim my scars. And rebuild from ashes together? Or not? In the end, I chose the wire. The doctor's office. A nondescript clinic in Pilsen with flickering neon and the hum of illicit promise. Strapped to the machine, cold electrodes kissing temples. We triggered the pulse. Agony ripped through. Souls wrenching free like roots from frozen earth. I woke gasping in my body slender.
Scarred.
Mine, while Ethan blinked in his. Disoriented and diminished. He didn't fight the charges. Pleaded out to manslaughter. Fraud. A slap on the wrist for the swap as experimental mishap. The company folded. Assets liquidated to pay victims, unions, tenants displaced by dads, our greed. I got nothing but freedom. A book deal from the scandal this story. Sanitized for prime time. And therapy bills that'd bankrupt a lesser soul. Was it happy? Tragic? The debates rage in comment sections from coast to coast. Did I redeem or destroy? Forgive or forget? Mom's note yellows on my fridge in my tiny Logan Square walk-up. A reminder that love's the ultimate swap, giving pieces of yourself until you're hollow. Hoping the return fills the gaps. This Christmas, 2 years on, I string lights alone. Jazz from the radio crooning. Have yourself a merry little Christmas. Ethan's in minimum security upstate. Writing letters I don't read. The truth turned his world upside down.
All right.
Mine? It righted it. Wobbly as a tipsy tree stand. And in the debatable gray of it all. That's the American way. Revenge served not hot, but simmering.
With a side of what ifs.